What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. Oh shit, yeah, it's on. If you're wondering why there was so much Porsche in the beginning of this video,
it's because we're gonna get back at it soon.
Yeah, so this video serves mainly, I mean, there's a bunch of shit we're gonna be doing. We actually have a lot to get done today, but it's occurred to us that a lot of you have subscribed since we've worked basically solely on the Datsun and probably don't know much about the Porsche, what's been done to it since we've gotten it, and what our plans for. But we're going to clear all of that up today. We're also going to do some suspension work on the 240Z. Well, first things first is we want to thank all of you who supported us during the holiday sale we ran, Black Friday through Cyber Monday, obviously.
Yeah, because of that, we get to move forward on both of the projects, and we now have decided on a game plan of where we're heading with both cars.
So we think it's super beneficial for us to have at least one working car, basically at all times in the videos. It's really fun to drive it. It's great content for the channel. So that's why we've decided to keep this running and not incapacitate it for a long time. We'll talk a little bit more about what we mean with that, but first we'd like to go over the Porsche. Yeah. All right, so basically we had a decision to make, and that was go like balls out on the Datsun, which would be wide body, the R200 rear differential, half shaft upgrades, coilover suspension, obviously. The issue with that is obviously we'd go back to having two not working cars for a pretty extended amount of time. Right when this one's starting to get good, we really didn't want to do that. The main roadblock with the Porsche was obviously the amount of money it costs to do things with that car. We want to give you guys a price breakdown in a little bit, but just know for right now's purposes that it's quite a lot of money. We still needed to finish the exhaust system, and if we wanted to go wide body on the Datsun, we wouldn't be able to do both projects at the same time.
Now that's not to say that we're going to neglect the Datsun completely. If we're going to keep this around and keep it on the road, it has a few issues that need to be addressed right away.
Yeah, you guys saw in our last video, if you give it any kind of gas at all, the front wheels want to come off the ground. And that's not because it has power through the roof and traction through the roof. That's simply because our suspension, our springs specifically, are so worn out from metal fatigue that they are, it's one of those cars, it's so floppy now.
It's just a complete boat on the road. The springs are doing absolutely nothing. They compress and expand just like that.
So what we've done is we've gotten some progressive 1-inch lowering springs, which is cheap, and we can keep the Datsun on the road and we can get that project done in 1 or 2 days, and at the same time get the Porsche running. We really want to have both cars running at the same time. That would be great. We could do a lot of comparison videos. It's going to be good content because we can keep the car on the road and we don't have to go back to having nothing running for months at a time. And obviously once we fix the suspension, we can put some decent tires on this car, really experiment with what it can do, and at that point we'll be comfortable taking it to a dyno and a tuning shop. We'll have a lot more potential with this car. We build the Porsche, get the Porsche on the road, and tune the Porsche, much like we've done with this car.
Yeah, we figured instead of going all out with one car and letting the other sit there and collect dust, we might as well get both cars to, a completed state, and then from there, go into the upgrading and tuning and everything like that, and just do them together as opposed to one at a time.
Yeah, like Devin just suggested, this is not to say that we are not going to wide body and do adjustable coilovers on the Datsun, because we definitely are.
Oh yeah.
It just makes more sense for us to get the stock suspension working how it should, get another car on the road, and then make both great at the same time. So if you haven't watched our last video, we just got back to the house. We actually ran out to get a few bottles of PB Blaster because we're going to need it for the suspension, which we're going to disassemble today. But if you haven't watched the previous video on this car, I highly recommend you do. It lets you know the current state of it, which is the motor's a beast. It's tuned pretty well, but the rest of the car is not up for the challenge at all. We can do some mild upgrading cost effectively and not get the car off the road for more than a day or two, and at the same time get the Porsche, which has just been sitting in the background of these videos for like 30 plus videos, on the road as it should be. It deserves it.
Definitely.
Before we start tearing on the Datsun, getting that ready to refresh the stock suspension, we'd like to touch a little bit more on the Porsche, and specifically if you're wondering what exactly it costs to do a project like the Porsche.
In order to do a project like that, the first thing first is you got to get a car. And these air-cooled Porsches are just skyrocketing in price right now.
So if you look on eBay, these are going anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000, depending, of course, on condition, mileage, previous owners, all that crap. If you get one on the lower end, around the 20 area, you're not going to want to just slap a turbo on a tired old motor. So you're going to need to rebuild the motor first. Once you spent all that money, then you can actually get into turbocharging, and it's a whole other thing. We're going to briefly go over what we've spent so far. We got a little bit lucky in some areas, but we spared no expense in others.
So upon acquiring the car, we got a little bit lucky. Our neighbor happened to have one, and it was sitting in his garage for a while, and he was generous enough to let it go for 15.
Which you're not gonna find a running 911 SC for 15. Even with 200,000 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, you might. It's just not very common these days. We quickly found out that this motor was in no condition to throw the turbocharger on, which is immediately what we wanted to do with the car. First thing we did, obviously, was rebuild the motor, and that means new pistons and a whole new bottom end, which we have this price sheet right here. But basically, in a nutshell, we lowered the static compression so it's better with boost. The SC is like the 930, only it has higher compression because it's naturally aspirated. So we lowered it down to turbocharger levels. In addition to that, we had the bottom end strengthened, which we weren't going to do, but then we decided, you know, if we're going to put a turbo on this, we want it to last as long as possible. All said and done, there's this huge spec sheet here, and if you guys want, you can leave it in the comments and we'll go through that in more detail, but it's a lot of stuff. To redo just the bottom end was $6,400. To refurbish the heads, there's 6 individual heads on this car. That was about $2,400. And then we don't want to put a killer motor in a car with shitty old suspension like we have in the Datsun right now, because you can see how well that worked. So we also had to do the suspension, which is another spec sheet, which we can leave in a link if you guys are interested. That came out to $4,600. So before we get into any of the aftermarket parts, just on the stock car, we've spent over $13,000 just to rebuild it. That's not even a complete rebuild, and 15 on the car. So we're already approaching 30, and that's before even touching turbos and EFI and all of that other shit.
So these cars came with the CIS as far as fuel control goes, and if you want to put a turbocharger on it, you're going to have to switch over to modern fuel injection.
You can put a turbo on those old systems, but you're pretty limited, and
Yeah.
there's not much tuning that can go involved in that, and the overall best solution is to do something like Megasquirt, which we know we're very familiar with. We have that on the Datsun. It's in this box right here. The Megasquirt kit is the Bits Racing, I think it was $1,200. I could be completely wrong. It was at least $1,000. I remember that specifically. Then you need injectors. You need an exhaust system. You need a turbo. Our turbo was generously donated to us by a subscriber, Austin Bauer, and again, a million thanks to that. If anyone else wants to send us stuff, go ahead.
For it.
Just email us. We don't have a public address listed, but just email us if you want to support the build in a different way than buying sunglasses. We are open to sponsorships and obviously parts that move the build along more quickly. Turbo is a huge thing to that, and is that all that's over here?
Yeah.
There's obviously more. There's a lot we have to do with the intake. We have to source more exhaust pieces. The wastegate is going to be a tile unit. That's another $200. It's like now we're just going to get a nickel and dime for the rest of the build with miscellaneous $200 parts. You know, we're going to go with the universal eBay intercooler kit. We honestly have no problems with those in the past. The Porsche is not going to run very much more than 10 pounds, so it's not like we need a intercooler kit that's going to, you know, be able to handle, you know, 50, 60 pounds boost. That's not what we're trying to do with this motor.
Not where we're going.
And what we've done with some of the money we made over the weekend is we bought everything we need for the exhaust system to bolt that turbo up. We bought the injectors so we can finish switching this over to modern fuel injection, and that's basically all we need to do. Everything else after that is fabrication, intercooler piping, and things like that. We're going to need to put the car in here so we can get everything sized up. But we have the parts that we've been talking about buying for a while now, and we are ready to move forward on this. But to fill the gaps, we have some suspension to tear down.
Yeah, so let's get it tearing apart the Datsun.
Yet, I never knew that. I was involved teacher's degree because I thought I might teach. But when the moment came, bang, I went out into jazz. It was like it was so much a part of my inner life, and I didn't realize it. There was no.
Well, you see this bullshit. Remember how I said that the differential's definitely clunking around, and we have to look at that.
Figured out why.
Yeah, that's the rubber buffer that's supposed to be connected up there, and it literally
it's completely broken.
It sheared itself off, so the differential has quite literally been smashing into the back of the car every time. Yeah, every time we give it, like this whole rear end just isn't stable. So
yeah, it's just twisting around and clunking every time you give a gas.
Mystery solved.
Damn. Look.
Simulate torque. Just push it upwards. Yeah. So that actually hits the upper end of the transmission tunnel.
I can't make it do it,
but obviously when you step on the gas, it does. And that's why we thought that the rear end was exploding.
Yep. No, it was just this going. Brr, brr.
Alright guys, it's going to wrap this one up. You saw us pull the suspension. We've done that like a billion times, and everything that we do on this car now is super easy. So as soon as we get the suspension parts, which will probably be tomorrow or the next day, we could pop those on, drop another video. We want to get Thursdays and Fridays out. The only reason we didn't get Mondays out was because of all the orders you guys placed over the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. So thanks for that. That's awesome. It means we can keep making these videos and keep buying parts. Keep throwing all the money towards these cars. So Devin's going to go ahead and pick a winner. Devin's going to go ahead and pick a winner for this video's giveaway. If you're unfamiliar with our channel, we give away products from boostedshades.com every single video.
Alright, this video's winner is Bimmer Nut.
Alright, Bimmer, you can hit us up at Teamboosted at boostedshades.com or through any of our social media platforms, and we will get back to you and ship you your prize. If you're new here, or if you're not new here and you haven't won yet, and you are interested in winning the giveaways, all you have to do is like the video, if you actually liked it, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment. Sometimes the comments have to do with questions at the end of the video. Even if we ask a question you don't want to answer it, if you just leave whatever the hell you want, you're still qualified to win.
So this video's question, we're curious as to what you guys think about Porsche versus Datsun.
Which car do you think will be faster? To give you guys some specs here, we don't have it dynoed yet, but we think that the boosted 4-cylinder Datsun is putting out probably at least 300 wheel, probably slightly above that, and I think it's a given that on 10 pounds the Porsche will put out something very similar. Both cars weigh sub 3,000 pounds. The Datsun's probably a bit lighter. It's still up in the air which one would be faster. Our ultimate goal is to make the Datsun way faster and have a reliable, healthy horsepower for the Porsche. Yeah. But as it sits right now, I think it'd be a pretty even match. So leave your best guess, because before both are tuned fully on the Datsun, that might actually happen.
So leave your opinion in the comments, and that's going to do it for this video. As always, guys, thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time.